Hey everyone, it's Karen with Yes Please PaperCrafts, and in this video I'm going to be sharing these watercolor brush pens from Chalkola. And I want to start off by mentioning that this video is sponsored by Chalkola. They did reach out to me a while back and asked if I would like to try out one of their products, and when I said yes, they sent me these watercolor brush pens. So I was super excited. I love watercolor and trying out new things, and so I did play around with these a bit just to kind of get a feel for how they work before I shared them with you in this video. Okay, I also wanted to mention that Chalkola did give me a coupon code for 10% off to share with you guys, and I will put that in the description of this video, along with links to where you can find these watercolor brush pens. They're available on Amazon as well as the Chalkola website. Okay, so let's talk about what comes in this set. It comes with 28 different colors, and it also includes 2 water brush pens, and there's also a paper pad, a watercolor paper pad that has 15 sheets of watercolor paper. So let me go ahead and open this up and take these out. They come in 2 separate trays, which I think is awesome. It kind of keeps you organized while you're working with these brush pens. And then here is the watercolor pad. All right, on the back of the box, it shows you all of the different colors available in this set. And I think there's a really good variety of colors. And I was thinking when I first saw this that the colors were very muted and kind of pastel, but it actually turns out that that's really not the case. So I did my own color swatch, and I'll share that with you guys. So I went ahead and created a color swatch using the different pens. And you can see here that the colors are actually much more vibrant. Now this is the color of the ink right out of the pen. And this is, I think this is more representative of if you added water, because one of the things that's really awesome about these pens is that you can just use them as they are, full strength, or you can add water, which kind of gives you a different range of colors. And so you can do these really fun, bright, vibrant colors, or you could do more pastel colors. One of the things I really wish that Chalkola would have done is to put the name of each one of the colors on the actual pen. And they didn't do that. So I went ahead and just created my own swatches here and figured out which color went to which pen. Then I just used my label maker and I created a label and just stuck it onto the pen. So you can see here, that wasn't really too hard to do. It didn't take me too long. And so I just added the color there. And that way, when I'm looking at my swatch, I know exactly which color pen to use. Some of them, it's pretty obvious what the color is, and the barrel of the pen is the color that's actually in the pen. But some of these are very close in color, and so it's kind of difficult to tell which one is which. So for instance, these 2 here are very close in color, and some of the blues, if you're not careful, you might get the wrong one. Okay, so I went ahead and did that. Now that's one of the things I really wish they could add for this set. I think it would really help a lot with using these pens if the name of the color was actually on the pen. Okay, so in addition to the 28 different colors, they also have 2 water brush pens. I thought that was nice that they gave 2 different pens and they're different sizes. So let me go ahead and take these out. This is the smaller size, and I have been using these. I filled them up with water, and this one is kind of like a fine tip pen or brush pen. And then the other one has a flatter tip for larger areas. So I think it's really nice that they gave 2 different sizes to use. And so I kind of use the one with the pointy tip more, but it's nice sometimes having this one if you have a larger area that you're working with. Okay, so one of the other things that I wanted to mention was when I tried out the watercolor paper that comes with this set, I was having a little bit of trouble getting these brush pens to blend. And you can see here when you put the color down and then you add water on top of it, it doesn't really blend it out very well. You do get better results if you wet the paper first and then put your pen down. It comes out a little bit better. But what I was finding is that this watercolor paper is super heavyweight. It's 200 pounds. It's acid-free cold pressed paper, and it's super heavy and thick. And I think what happens is that watercolor just gets sucked right into the paper, and so you don't get very good movement. And you can see this is like really, really heavy. So I did try out these brush pens on some other watercolor paper as well as just some regular paper, just to kind of see what I could do with them. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of things that I actually created to demonstrate the range of colors that you can get with these brush pens. And so if you use the brush pen directly onto your paper and then use water to blend it out, you get very rich, vibrant colors, which are super fun. And they're just amazing. Isn't that color gorgeous? I just love that. And so that's one way that you can use these pens. You can also add water to your paper and then apply the brush pen color and then blend it out. And so I did that with these, and that was really a lot of fun. Now there are some tricks to getting a really good results. And with these images, I actually took the brush pens and scribbled them onto a palette and then picked it up with the water brush, and I got much more pastel colors, much lighter colors, but still was able to get some blending. And so I think that's another thing that you can do with these brush pens to get a completely different look. Okay, so now that I've kind of showed you what's in the set and what you can do with these brush pens, I want to share some tips on how you can get good results and how you can create these 3 different effects. Okay, so I have some additional stamped images here, and one of the things I wanted to mention too is that you can use these brush pens directly onto paper, and this is just regular cardstock. It's a lightweight cardstock, and I wouldn't recommend adding additional water when using this paper, but you can use these brush pens directly onto a paper that's not watercolor paper, and it does work really well. You get a little bit of bleeding, so you can use these brush pens to do coloring in a coloring book. And also this set is great for kids. It's kid safe. And the price point is very reasonable. It's a very inexpensive set, a really good starter set. If you've not used this type of a brush pen before and you just want to try it out without spending too much money, this would be a really good set to start with. Okay, so I want to start off by just using these brush pens directly from here and not use any water. So I'm going to start with just using this regular paper. Now I also stamped this these stamps onto some other papers. This is a watercolor paper from Canson, and this one here is from this paper pad right here, and this is a cold press watercolor paper, and I had much better results with this paper than I did with the paper that came in the Chalkola set. I am also going to use this paper that did come from Chalkola and just kind of show you a couple of different techniques for how you can use these brush pens. Okay, so let's get started with just using the paper. And one of the fun things about these sets is that you can just use them and they're really fun to color with. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this orange or yellow color. This is Orange Punch. And I think I'll use these 2 colors here. This is rich yellow. Now, one of the things with blending is you kind of do have to pick colors that go together. So I could actually, you know, pick a red and a yellow would blend really well, or the pink and the purple would blend really well. So you just kind of have to experiment, but usually colors that are next to each other in the rainbow blend well. So I'm just going to pick these 2 here. And this is just a darker orange and a lighter orange. Okay, so what you can do is just go ahead and you can just draw or color directly onto the paper using these markers. And one of the things I would also recommend when you're using those is you want to work in a very small area, because if you try to make your area too big, you're not really going to get good blending. Okay, and so I don't know if I can talk and do this at the same time, which is kind of why I actually prepared some examples ahead of time because I'm not too good at talking and doing things at the same time. But you can see here that you can get really good results with just coloring directly onto the paper, not adding any water. And so this would be really good for probably things like Bible journaling or just coloring in a coloring book. Super fun. These colors are pretty close together. Maybe I should pick a different color and just get a little bit more of a contrast. Let's try this. I'll just try this one here, and we'll just do this darker orange and then the lighter one, and then blend them out. And you really can get good results with the blending as long as you're working in very small areas. One of the things you don't want to do is to let this dry because once it's dried, you really can't get good movement with it. So it's better to work in really small areas and just work with your different colors until you have the blending that you want in that area, and then move to the next area. So usually if I'm doing flowers, I would just kind of divide it up into each petal, just do each petal separately, and you really get good results that way. Okay, so that's one way that you can use these brush pens. And if you look on the back, it didn't bleed through at all. Now, I was coloring in a coloring book, and I did have a little bit of bleeding, and it depended on the color and I think how long you actually let the marker sit there. So the wetter that it gets, the more it has a tendency to bleed through to the other side. Okay, so it's not bad though. It really didn't bleed that much. And I do have a page that I did. Let me see. I was playing around with this, and I did color in this coloring book. And you can see how fun and vibrant these colors are. And then if we flip the page, you can only see a little bit of bleed through here, right up in here. For the most part, it didn't really bleed through that much, just a little bit. And I think it's just where if you oversaturate the paper, then it has a tendency to to make its way to the other side. But if you, have a really light touch and you don't, set your brush pen too long in one place, then you're pretty good with it not bleeding through too much. Okay. So let me go ahead and share with you the next technique that I wanted to kind of go over, and that is to use the pens with water, but still at the full strength. And so how we're going to do that is I'm going to switch over to this watercolor paper because if we're going to add water, we kind of need to make sure that we're using a paper that's going to be able to handle adding the water. And if you use a regular paper to do this, your paper is going to start pilling and tearing. And you could try it, but most of the time using a watercolor paper is much better than using, just a regular paper when you're dealing with watercolor. Okay, so I'm going to just get some water in to make sure that this is wet. And in order to get some better blending results using these pens on watercolor paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually saturate the paper with the water first, and then I'm going to add the color. And so that way, we'll be able to get better blending, but it'll still be at the full strength. Now, one of the things that I found was if you do this, it's going to sometimes resist. And I kind of oversaturated the paper there just so you can kind of see. Oh, I guess I didn't because it's picking it up pretty good. Okay, so sometimes if you oversaturate the paper and it's too much water there, the pen will actually resist and it will wick away and you won't get any water at all. So you can see here the color is still very vibrant and I'm getting really good blending. And I'm just going to go over and switch colors and kind of go around this flower and see if we can color this a little bit so you can kind of see how this works. And I think these blend really well as long as you kind of wet the paper first with the watercolor paper. If you just start going at it without wetting the paper, it doesn't blend as well as if you wet the paper first. And with the Chalkola paper, I'm not going to get as good of results as this Canson paper. But I think these markers are really a lot of fun. I keep calling them markers. I think these pens are a lot of fun to play with. One of the things I love about them the most is how vibrant the colors are. I just think the colors are just super pretty and really a lot of fun. And I think maybe I'll add some more water here because you can see here that even just adding water is going to pull some of the color in. You want to make sure that whatever the area you are working with, you're not, you know, it's wet so that you can get some good blending. And yeah. Okay. I'm not the best at coloring, so. And I haven't done watercolor in a really long time. So, but I think it's really a lot of fun and something fun to try out. Okay, so you can see there we got that going on. So let's go ahead and do our Chalkola paper here and see the difference between these two papers. Okay. Oh, I have to laugh at myself. Oh, I'm always doing goofy things. But you can see how the color is just sticking. I don't understand this paper at all. I think that's really nice that they gave you paper, but I think it's very frustrating that the paper that they gave you does not work very well with the brush pens. And I think if anything, the two things that I would definitely kind of go back with Chalkola on the recommendations for what they can do to improve this product would definitely be to include a different watercolor pad, or maybe don't include the watercolor pad at all, because I think this is more frustrating to get results like this with the paper that's included than to not have the paper and have to go out and buy yourself some paper. So you can see how hard the line is that I'm getting here, and that was even adding the water first. So I think that that's kind of disappointing. And I think that you get really much better results if you use a different watercolor paper. You can see here I don't have any hard lines. Now, I didn't work with the blending as much as I might usually do if I wasn't recording this video, but you can see the difference in how these two papers react with these brush pens. So I think that really Chalkola should just eliminate that from their packaging. Or replace it with one that works a little bit better with the marker, with the brush pens that are included in this set. Okay, so I also wanted to kind of show you a couple more tips with blending. So let's go ahead and I'm going to grab this other image here. What did I do with it? Okay, so one of the things that I want to show y'all is how you can get very light colors with these brush pens. And so I'm going to use a palette that I got from Ulta New. And what did I do with that? I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to use this palette along with the paper towel. Just have a folded paper towel here. And what I'm going to do to get the pastel colors is to take the marker, and let's go ahead and work with a different color. We'll do the purple so you can see it. I think this color is going to show up really good. You can use anything. You can use a laminated piece of cardstock, or you could use a stamp block if you have a stamp block. Just anything that you can just like write the brush pen and kind of get some of the ink out where you can work with it. And you're going to take your water brush, and we're just going to, you can add, okay, so this is another trick, is you could either leave it like this and just use it at this strength, which is a little bit lighter than the color that comes directly from the brush pen, but it's still not a pastel. Okay, you can see that I'm still getting a very dark color here. And so let me go ahead and draw on here. Take it out of the package. Okay. So this right here is the color straight out of the pen. And you can see how much darker that is. Okay, now we have the pen scribbled onto the palette. And then we just dip the water brush into it and it gets diluted just a little bit. Now the next thing that we can do is just squirt some water from the water brush on there. And now you can see that we're going to get a little bit lighter of a color and much lighter. And you can add more water. Now one of the things that you can see, I got it pulled up quite a bit and then it kind of went over the area that I wanted it to be in. So I think in that case, you want to make sure you don't have too much water on your brush. And one of the things that you can do is just to tap it over here on your paper towel. I use the paper towel to absorb some of the water if I have too much water on my brush. I also use the paper towel to clean the brush in between using the different colors. So if I'm going to switch between purple and yellow, I'm going to make sure that I get my brush really clean if I don't want to blend those two colors together before I use it. So, and you can see here I'm going to get an even lighter color of purple. And look at the variation in the color that you can get with these brush pens just by adding water. And one of the other things that you can do is if you find that the color that you got was too light, you could just wait a little bit for it to dry a little and then go over it again and you can build up the color that way. Now if you get it too wet, sometimes the color will actually resist and you'll get like white spots. And I'm going to show you in one of my examples that happened to me. And you can see here when I was doing the raincoat, I had some places where I went back over it with the color and it was still wet. And it was actually taking the color away instead of adding more color. So that's one of the other things that to keep in mind is sometimes when you're using these, if it's too wet, instead of adding color, it's actually going to remove the color because the water's reacting to it and it's actually taking the color away. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do with these brush pens is to dilute them with water. Use this palette to kind of, you know, make the colors be the intensity that you want and water them down, so that you can work with them and get more pastel colors. Now you can also do this and blend the colors as well, and so you can get an even more variation in the colors than that you have here by using your palette to blend the colors here as well. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to show you or to mention before I Okay, so going back to the examples that I shared with you, I did this, all of these images using this technique where I watered down the color with the water brush and then colored it. So I did that. For this one, I actually did scribble the, I actually scribbled the brush pen on here but didn't add any additional water, and I was able to get the flowers to be more of a medium tone, so not as bright as using the pen straight from the getting the color straight from the pen, but using it with a little bit of water. And so I was able to get a little bit more vibrant color. And then the last one that I shared with you, and then this one is the one where I use the pens directly by just adding some water, just with the water pen first, and then using the pens directly onto the paper. Okay, so that's all I have for this video. I really had a lot of fun trying out these watercolor brush pens from Chalkola. And don't forget there's a coupon code in the description below if you decide you want to pick some of these up. So y'all take care, have an awesome week, and I will see you next time. Bye now.